TV Crazy Man here. In this video, we look at the $6 million man's wild, amazing goose.
It's wild, Steve. It's wild.
And how they accomplished amazing special effects the old school way. Plus cool, fun trivia facts that'll make you wonder how you went all these years just not knowing. The $6 Million Man had many iconic aspects to it, the biggest one being the sound effects, which gradually evolved over time. At first, the Bionic sounds we think of when Steve Austin did many of his superpowered feats just did not exist. For example, in this second episode of Season 1, when Austin jumps down to Oscar Goldman, there isn't much sound at all. Unless you count the musical note, of course. It's clearly not as dramatic as it would later become. The first season did feature a cool sound effect for Austin's bionic eye, which was really just a sped up satellite sound that producer Harv Bennett picked out of a sound room. The Bionic Woman's ear sound effect was just a sped up submarine sonar. Season 1's episode Day of the Robot was the first to use the Bionic strength sound, but it was only used for the robot's movements and not Steve Austin. The Bionic sound would be heard again on Season 1's Dr. Wells is Missing. But why the sound came from this non-superpowered individual is beyond me. Now feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first time we actually hear the Bionic sound come from Steve Austin, it's Season 1's episode, The Coward. In the second episode of the second season, this deranged astronaut gets the Bionic sound, but he doesn't have any Bionics. In one of my favorite episodes, The $7 Million Man, the Bionic sound is heard here and there, but it's largely missing. It's really missed during the Bionic arm wrestling match. Now in the third season, when Steve thinks back to the incidents of this episode, the Bionic strength sound is added to the arm wrestling scene, and it's a vast improvement.
It's wild, Steve. It's wild.
Did you know the $7 Million man's name, Barney Miller, was changed to Barney Hiller because of the Barney Miller TV series that was also on ABC? I would have kept it the same. It's not like there couldn't be two Barney Millers in the whole world. Say, is that an Emmy Award in Oscar's office? Through the magic of HD television screens, this gator now looks a little fake, but still more realistic than most modern CGI animals I've seen on television lately. Now when the Bionic Man sees the danger, he takes off running, but he's wearing different clothes as he's running. Now there's no way that muddy quicksand will ever come off of those pants. Well, you know, you can't be right about everything. I wonder if they found a washing machine with Tide in the jungle.
The dirt you see the most is the dirt Tide cleans the best.
Now this Bionic leap is interesting. This is, from what I've seen, to be one of the few times they use wires with a jump. You can tell the way he takes off, it's a lot more like he's Superman flying than leaping. And then we get another shot, which may be Lee Majors jumping off of a ladder, possibly. You can't tell how high he's leaping because of the camera angle. Thanks to DVD commentary from writer Kenneth Johnson for the second season episode Bionic Woman Part 2, we know that ladders were used for Bionic jumps, plus there's mention of it in the Bionic book Reconstructed. Also in the episode Operation Firefly, Steve puts his foot down to stop a runaway taxicab that looks like it was built in the 1950s. But when it takes off down a cliff, it suddenly becomes a 1970s model. And then it blows up for no apparent reason. Super confident their audience knows absolutely nothing about cars, apparently, they double down with a couple more shots of the late 60s, early 70s model car in flames. Believe it or not. In the episode Day of the Robot picks up the back of a car and moves it around. But from Steve's position at the front, he should be seeing the car move around as well, but the front isn't moving at all, And he doesn't even notice until he sees the robot with the whole car in his hands.
You recognize this man? You recognize this man?
Now I guess they hoped the TV screens were just too small to notice this one. It's almost a little strange they couldn't get their hands on the right picture. Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't watched this particular episode in a good while, but I'm pretty sure there was nothing said about this conch on the head later on in the episode, making me think it was an accident and they just added in the sound effect later. But I could be wrong. I'm also wondering, did they actually use a real rock? Because that looked like it hurt.
Isn't anything ever easy?
On the episode, Dr. Wells is missing. Steve has to use his legs to turn over a bad guy's car due to an arm injury. Notice his legs are hitting above the back wheel. Also notice the side of the car is fine without any major dents. So where did that big dent in the door come from? And why do cars always have to explode every time they go off a cliff? You know, it wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't even the same car. You know, it's always fun to see when a stuntman takes over a shot, but it's even cooler when it looks like the stuntman is doing something that almost looks superhuman without any wires. I wish I could do that, but I'd probably just bust up my knee or something. I wonder how many hours these stuntmen train for this kind of thing. Of course, maybe it just looks a little harder to me because I'm starting to get old. You know, I'm actually a big Shatner fan. I love his work as Captain Kirk, of course, and T.J. Hooker, but this probably isn't one of my favorite Shatner appearances.
I'm burning bright now, Steve!
Well, okie dokie then.
Don't come any closer.
Yeah, I bet Lee Majors was thinking, definitely not a problem here.
I can't control it.
Come on, Lee, give the guy a break. His acting's not that bad on this particular episode. Well, you know, you'd think that if you teamed Shatner up with Lee Majors, the TV set would literally explode from the awesomeness of it. But I think it just exploded from the weirdness of the whole thing. Okay, I should mention in fairness that Shatner's character was suffering with loss of his sanity as he developed strange mental powers.
I feel like a walking computer.
It's wild, Steve. It's wild.
Here's a quick continuity error in the episode The Coward. These kind of errors happen a lot in older TV series because of the speed to which they had to produce programming. According to the Bionic book, they were only given 6 days to shoot an episode, so reshoots were kept to a minimum. Also, according to the book, there were some complaints when the Bionic Woman got 7 days instead of 6. In Season 2, on the episode Nuclear Alert, 2 bad guys are getting into a truck. Notice this guy is about to run around and supposedly get into the truck, and also keep your eye on the bottom of the truck. Yep, even though we see him in the truck later, he clearly kept on going. And there he is. In the episode The Midas Touch, in between shots, the hubcap came back.
Give me that gun, Connors.
Did you ever wonder if breaking handcuffs like that hurt Steve's non-bionic arm? Oh look, that's Rick Hurst, who played Cletus on the Dukes of Hazzard. In the episode Act of Piracy, Steve jumps into the water with green socks on that immediately turn into flippers, which then turn into bare feet when he gets out of the water. You know, I recently found this same anomaly on another TV series, Wonder Woman, on my last Goofs video. Here's another cool stuntman shot that is definitely easy to see that it isn't Lee Majors. Well, at least he had some grass to land on this time. On this particular Bionic leap, they didn't cut off Lee Majors' jump fast enough. As you can see, he's coming back down way before he could get anywhere near the helicopter. Looks like they had a stuntman hanging on waiting to let go of the helicopter to make it look like Austin had jumped all the way up there. Here's another example of using wires for a jump, this time from the episode Lost Love. I always thought it was cool when I was a kid how the robots in this show would seem so lifelike and human until they were destroyed and then they instantly turn into mannequins. plastic. But the funny thing in this episode is that when Oscar picks up his robot duplicate's head, it looks lifelike again. From this to this. Believe it or not. In a tragic parachute scene from the Origin of the Bionic Woman episode, why does Jamie's parachute turn from yellow and blue to all white and then back again? I think most Bionic fans remember the end of the Bionic Woman Part 2 where Steve runs after Jamie, whose bionics are failing, right in the middle of a huge storm. Well, the lightning strike used in this segment was also used on the pilot for The Incredible Hulk and in the weekly intro of the series. Kenneth Johnson, who wrote this episode, also used the premise of this scene for the ending of the Incredible Hulk episode Married. They really knew how to bring a tear to your eye back then.
I'll miss you, David.
Of course, Season 3 started off on a happier note, with the return of the Bionic Woman and the pillow fight. No stunt people were needed for this scene, but I do suspect the pillow was rigged, as Jamie's pillow is leaking feathers before the Bionic pillow fight even begins. Here's an interesting way to perform a Bionic event. On the episode The Song and Dance Spy, guest starring singer Sonny Bono. Sonny Bono, he sang that song, I Got You, Babe. Well, anyway, would share. Here he's seen being grabbed and placed on crates with one bionic arm. Or is he? In order to pull this off, it looks like Sonny simply jumped down pretending to be a karate expert, and they just ran the film backwards. Sonny's hair sort of gives it away. In the episode, one of our running backs is missing. They pulled off some bionic jumps with the help of a hidden trampoline, which worked amazingly well. Now, Lee Majors did a lot of his own stunts, including jumping off ladders and etc. to make it look like he was bionically jumping, as I believe he did here.
No, I keep it shape.
Now, in this fight scene with the $7 million man and Steve Austin, they kept jumping back and forth between Majors and the Stuntman, which is apparent from the Stuntman's hair color and cut. Now this next little stunt, I'm sure Lee was glad he didn't do himself, as the Stuntman gets bopped in the face pretty daggum hard. And these days they probably would have used a couple of CGI cartoon guys to do this one. Someday I bet they replace football players with CGI characters or robots. There's a couple of things on the episode The Winning Smile. First one, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, where it's a type of inner tube or wrapped up tires, but it breaks apart like some kind of cheap foam rubber. After that, Steve throws an oil drum that makes a huge mess, but it's completely cleaned up when Oscar runs in. I guess maybe they didn't want to take a chance on getting Oscar's suit dirty.
It's Bionic Bigfoot. Bionic Bigfoot, new from Kenner. $6 million man sold separately.
The introduction of Bigfoot to the $6 million man was a big success. Bigfoot was brought to life thanks to a decent costume and a very large Andre the Giant, and in the 4th season, Ted Cassidy, who also did the voice of the Hulk on the Bill Bixby-led series. This looks a lot like the stuntman that jumped out of the truck on the episode Stranger in Broken Fork. There he is again. Looking for stuntman is almost like looking for sightings of Bigfoot. They can't quite decide if they want Steve Austin's shirt on or off. I don't know, I guess they didn't think we would notice the shirt collar. Here's a neat trick they pulled on us on the episode Love Song for Tanya. A bad guy shown getting orders from the boss while sitting in this fancy leather office chair. But somehow, much later, when he starts his car, if you look closely, you can see that he's still sitting in it. Once again, just for comparison, here he is sitting in the office, and here he is sitting in the car. In the episode Return of Bigfoot, Steve is knocked out while trying to stop Bigfoot. I'm not sure, but I think Bigfoot was wearing boots. Must be disco boots, because even Bigfoot liked to get down in the 70s. The Bionic Boy episode got high ratings from what I read, but a planned spin-off never happened. In this scene, the Bionic Boy easily goes around Frank Gifford. We see Gifford sitting in the grass, and then suddenly, Where did that cow come from? Must be a bionic cow to move that fast. Clearly there's no cow behind him, and then boom. I found another fast-moving cow once on a previous Andy Griffith Show Goofs video I did. I wonder if the cows are related. See the girl in the blue and white dress dancing with the Bionic Boy? If I didn't know any better, I'd think she was watching herself dance. I guess it could be a twin, I suppose, or one of those Twilight Zone things.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Another fun, possibly Twilight Zone-like moment happened when Steve Austin stood next to his own $6 Million Man action figure. In the episode Death Probe, it looks like the probe needs a helping hand. You know, it goes to show you how much you can do in the area of special effects with just the simplest of things, as long as it's out of the camera's range.
That's right.
Speaking of hands, Steve gets a hand as he's removing a drain pipe. You know, you see these mysterious hands on a lot of shows. Andy Griffith Show, Munsters, especially Knight Rider. Now the worst prop award goes to the episode Danny's Inferno with this very inaccurately small-sized dummy replica of a teenager Austin is carrying to safety. On the last Bigfoot episode, Steve Austin throws two bad guys up onto a tree limb. When the second one goes up, his buddy is turned into a dummy. Now more than likely, the stuntmen that were involved in this trick probably jumped off backwards, and then they just rewound the film to make it look like they were going up instead of down. I'm also guessing that they probably didn't want more than one stuntman up there at a time, thus the dummy mannequin. Now there is only one thing that bothers me about my assessment, and that's the dummy that would be the one on your left almost seems to be turning his head. It's weird, but he looks fake to me other than that. When the $6 Million Man and Bionic Bigfoot take a tumble downhill, it looks like Bigfoot's costume starts to come off around his ankles. On the episode Target Steve Austin, the Bionic Man runs past the camera crew, who appear on screen for several seconds. Now check out this cool ghost car in the sky. It is kind of bizarre. Steve Austin is running through the woods when he appears to look up into the sky, and eventually there seems to be a car driving through the clouds, before the camera shot goes back to Austin again. You know, I do have to wonder how you can type at bionic speed with only one bionic arm. Seems like that would be awfully hard. Well, thank you for taking the time to travel back to the 70s with me. A time when we all ran slowly while running at amazing speeds and making those funny bionic sounds. You know, if I had to rank my favorite shows as a kid, this one was definitely toward the top, if not the top, and there were a lot of good shows back then to watch. Please leave a comment, talk about your bionic memories, subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks if you have. Hit the like and share this video with your friends, and have a great day. Just try not to get any speeding tickets while running down the road.